questions over media objectivity as Congress debates whether to authorize the use of force in Syria. With our military preparing plans for possible action, Americans are looking for unbiased information. Some pundits, though, say the media are coming up short. Conor Friedersdorf writes in the Atlantic magazine, quote, "Syria coverage in America's newspapers is the latest example of purportedly neutral, objective press coverage that's bursting with contestable assumptions, often without the reporters and editors involved quite realizing their biases." Let's talk about it with Judith Miller, a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative reporter and author. Kirsten Powers is a columnist for the Daily Beast. Both are Fox News contributors. So what about it, Judy? His contention seems to be that the media are making a case to stay out of Syria. He's not necessarily sure that that's the right cause.
No, I think that it's actually the opposite. I agree with him that the media are biased in this one, but I think the bias that I see is the automatic assumption that a vote no against Obama's strike means diminishing American influence and credibility in the Middle East. That's the assumption I see because reporters love counting heads. It's so much easier to say, will the president win this one, than to ask the question, is what he wants to do consistent with the advancement of American interests and goals for the Middle East. That's what would make us strongest and stronger, but you don't see a lot of debate about that. You see whether, guesses about whether or not he's going to win this vote or not.
He takes issue with something that the Washington Post put in one of its editorials, in which it said that the president does not need congressional approval for a military strike. Kirsten, most people seem to think that the president has the authority to strike if he wants to.
Well, I think that's something that there's a lot of disagreement about, actually. And if you look through history, presidents have made missile strikes before. Obama actually did it in Libya. And I know there are a lot of people, right, and there are a lot of people, and I was one of those people who said that he should have gotten congressional approval, but there are people who do believe that the president has the authority under certain circumstances to launch a missile attack without congressional approval. However, in this case, I don't know that he's met the standard. It would have to be, for some sort of imminent threat or self-defense, and neither of those standards are met here.
Yeah, we mentioned earlier, Jenna mentioned earlier, an article in the Wall Street Journal today, in an op-ed piece in which the point is made that this is a war-weary nation, that whether we strike Syria or not, it doesn't necessarily diminish United States power. It might affect credibility, but she makes the point that credibility is not necessarily enhanced if you're striking only because you feel like you have to strike.
Exactly, because Barack Obama has said something stupid, which is to create a red line that he either lacked the willingness or ability to honor. Should America suddenly be held hostage to that stupidity? That's the question that many, even hawkish Americans, are asking. When you see the way people are lining up, like Peggy Noonan, John, in the column you referred to today, Stephen Hayes in the Wall Street Journal, people who would normally favor military action in the Middle East are asking, is this in our interest? Does it make sense? Senator Kerry said there are 70 to 100,000 oppositionists, as he calls the rebels in Syria, only 15 to 25% of whom are, quote, bad guys, the Al-Qaeda word. But how does he know that? And have we had the media check those estimates? Do people agree with that?
Kirsten, is it the memory of Iraq and the weapons of mass destruction that turned out not to be there that is coloring media coverage this time around, or maybe media skepticism?
Well, I think it is coloring the media. I think it's coloring the whole debate, and I find that to be a positive thing. I think that the American people seem to be very engaged. They want to have more answers to questions. They're not taking it at face value, and members of Congress as well are not taking these claims at face value. Even the claim that Assad used the weapons, people are saying, okay, that's a claim. We know the weapons were used, but how do we know that they were used by him? And the fact that people are asking these questions and saying, if we strike, how is that going to help anything? And what about the blowback? That these questions are being asked, actually, I consider to be a very positive thing.
Kirsten Powers and Judith Miller, both Fox News contributors.